Welcome to Bitcoins and Gravy, episode 23.
On today's show, we are hoping once again that Bitcoins are continuing to trade at $20,000.
Oh, I mean, that's gravy. Welcome to Bitcoins and Gravy, and thanks for joining us today as we podcast from East Nashville, Tennessee. I'm John Barrett.
And I'm Lid Shaw.
We're two Bitcoin enthusiasts who love to talk about Bitcoins.
And share what we learn with you, the listener. Thank you so much for your time, and thanks for listening to Bitcoins and Gravy.
On today's show, Lidge and I bring you part 2 of our conversation with Billy and Cheryl Carr, a truly brilliant couple who are on the verge of changing the world with their creation of Quid Point of Sale Smart Vendor. Quid is a multilingual, multi-currency Android app enabling quid pro quo transactions that focus on the emerging markets worldwide, and specifically in Latin America and Asia.
Wow. And we also talk with Nick Galan, co-founder and CEO of Bitmarket.ph, a Bitcoin payment processor that is helping to shape the future of commerce in the Philippines. Nick shares with us his upcoming projects, as well as opens our eyes to a whole new world of innovation and culture. Along the way, we learn that Manila is the selfie capital of the world. Yes, it's true, folks. Your selfies may actually be worth something in Bitcoin. On today's show, we are very excited to have back with us Cheryl and Billy Carr with Quid Smart Vendor and also of Satoshi Farms. Welcome back to the show, guys.
Welcome, guys.
Thank you. Good to be here again.
Good to be back.
I guess you have a tech background, both of you, or there's a background as a software developer?
You know, I started, really, it was when the dot-com boom was when I really made a push into technology from a previous industry that I was working in. We originally ended up setting up a company that built, if not all, most of the websites for the Roaring Fork Valley Aspen region. And that was back around 97, 98. And that's where we got our start in technology and the web and stuff like that. And actually, it was a very reminiscent time of now, because we would go into businesses and we would explain to them things like email. And they'd say, what? And then we'd have to explain, well, you can write a message and then just press a button and it just goes instantly to anywhere in the world. So I find myself just replacing message with money and singing the same song.
We would go into businesses and try to set up some websites. We did a project called Destination Aspen, and we would do like dining and lodging and shopping, and we'd go into a restaurant and say, do you have a website? And nobody had websites yet, and we were just pioneering that era. And like Billy said, it is very reminiscent of that time where you're just asking people, have you heard of Bitcoin? And
no, is the answer a lot of times anyway.
At the time, what was the media doing? How was the media talking about the World Wide Web and the internet? Do you remember any of that? Because that always fascinates me.
To be honest with you, I can't recall a lot of it. And, there wasn't, like with Bitcoin, we've had sort of Silk Road and, the usual narrative of drugs and shady dealings. But really with the internet, I can't recall too much sort of major negative stuff that was being thrown around at the time. Most stuff, as far as I can remember, was very positive, and prices were going through the roof. People were investing in anything that had .com on the end. And it was a crazy time where, in the end, me and Cheryl sort of did okay, and we sort of came out of that .com boom, not .com millionaires, but we had done okay. We were not broke, but we were not millionaires, and we were moving on in technology. I ended up starting another company that led me into some inventory control stuff. And so I have experience in that with computers and inventory control. And so from when I was dealing with inventory control, I constantly kept buffering up against point of sale systems, referred to as POS, point of sale. Okay. And it's literally sort of like an electronic cash register where the sales are being made, and then that would report to me information about what had been sold so that I could do deductions from inventory. And as I would buffer up against these systems, they were clunky and complicated and antiquated. And I kept saying to myself, I can do better than this. I can do better than this. So along comes Bitcoin, and I thought to myself, all these existing systems can't even deal with Bitcoin. Maybe there's an opportunity to put my money where my mouth is.
Yeah, sure. Necessity is the mother of invention, right? Or the father of invention in this case.
One or the other.
I've always said desperation is the mother of invention.
Oh, there you go.
That's been the case for me. So the Quid project, tell us about the Quid project.
So Quid itself comes from a couple things here. The main being it's about trading, and quid pro quo ultimately is trading something for something, or we've taken on the terminology this for that. It's a way where people can actually do trade via transactions using true quid pro quo.
Right, to be able to trade whatever your goods and services are for whatever monies that you're willing to accept that the buyer has in his pocket or is willing to trade you.
This actually comes from another kind of personal inspiration here, which is traveling. Billy and I like to do a lot of traveling around the world, and the best example for our Quid POS project is maybe to give you a user story. So we were in Southeast Asia last year in Vietnam, and when you go into these markets, in the tourist kind of areas specifically, where there are a lot of people who are doing trade to people coming through with all different kinds of currencies in their pocket. And the Vietnamese dong is trading at something to the US dollar crazy, like something like 30,000 Vietnamese dong to $1. So that makes it really complicated, at least for me, to do the math in my head when somebody...
Even to go buy a cup of coffee. I mean, it's a ridiculous number. Sarah would say, how much do you think that is? I'd say 100 million billion dong.
Oh, man.
So it made it difficult to, and this goes on everywhere. It's not just in Vietnam. It's anywhere. When you're in Mexico trading pesos and you go up to a vendor and you want to buy a souvenir or a hat or anything that when you're doing shopping. And
First of all, there's a language barrier,
Yes.
right? You can't speak their language. They can't speak your language. So it's a lot of hand signs and stuff like that. But now we get to the part where- Exactly.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
And then a lot of the times, so back to the Vietnam example, the vendors would be using a calculator, literally, and they would type in how much that costs in dong on the calculator,
right.
and then just show you the calculator. And this is the way that we are communicating, transacting between each other. And it's pretty archaic, and you don't really even still understand how much that is in your own currency.
So you just start handing them thousands and thousands of dong, and hopefully you get your pair of jeans and leave. So the other thing was that these people all had the calculator, which they were showing us the number on, but not all of them, but a lot of them. And of course, this number's increasing every day. In their other hand, they had a smartphone. Probably usually what we would see when we were traveling the world were Android smartphones, mainly because they're a lot more economically priced and open source than the Apple products. So we would bump into people, they'd all have these Samsung Galaxy phones and Android phones, and that would be just sitting on the counter next to them while they're punching numbers, endless huge numbers into a calculator. And so again, we sort of looked at this situation, we're like, hold on a minute. We can do better than this.
I'm thinking it's like going into the the old butcher where they weigh out the meat for you, but the scales are rigged, right? You don't know this guy's got a calculator out there and he's calculating dong, and you're looking at it, you're thinking, oh man, I don't know if he's telling me the truth or not. And you can't calculate dong yourself and convert it to euros or convert it to USD or whatever. So yeah, it sounds pretty confusing.
In Vietnam, they would gladly accept dollars. They snatch those dollars right out of your hand. They love the look of those. But the problem is how do you got to do this conversion in your head, and in the end, of course, they're not going to make change. So you would lose slightly on every deal, I found.
But that doesn't so much matter, because ultimately the app that we've developed, and we're about to release an alpha version of the app, we're pretty close to that at this point. It allows the vendor now to also partake in the exchange sector. So the vendor not only can do trade for what they are actually selling, but they can also now add premiums to other currencies that they choose to trade in, and can now basically be an exchange point. And we like to look at the project as kind of disrupting the exchange sector or decentralizing the exchange sector.
Yeah, that's pretty empowering for the vendors, right?
Yeah,
Definitely.
I mean, essentially through the smartphone and the internet, these are the critical tools that are enabling the mass flowering of human freedom, really. We are able to, through those tools, provide the tool of price discovery, real-time price discovery, and of course, multilingual capabilities. The app is written so that it regionalizes to whatever their localized languages are so that they can utilize this app easily. And
basically, it's a multi-currency, multi-language point-of-sale app that is on the Android platform for free.
Wow. That sounds like a monumental task almost to create something so all-encompassing. Was that extremely difficult to do, or is it simpler than it sounds?
There were definitely some challenges along the way and areas where, because we're trying to go for what we refer to as a lean launch, because we're funding this ourselves, and I have experience in software, and software can quickly, you have a simple idea, but then when you get into it, a million variables start occurring and everything interacts with everything else, and the scope of the project quickly accelerates into a much, much larger project. So all the time I've had to be very careful about where I'm going to bring down a gate and say, okay, for this version, this is as far as we go, because otherwise it can end up being years and hundreds of thousands of dollars to start developing complicated applications. So simplify, give the user what they need, and really at this point, not a lot more.
And most importantly, we want to be able to take this app out there and prove the market and be able to pivot if we need to fine tune exactly what we're doing. We have a lot of ideas of how to expand features, but the initial free app is fairly simplified.
Testing the water. So let's see what people want and get some feedback and modify from that point.
Right. You know, I wish I knew more about software development. I know very little about it, but I imagine it's like when you're writing a book, you have to run it past your friends or run it past an editor, people who really know about literature so they can point out the mistakes that you made. How do you guys reach out to people outside of you, friends, possibly colleagues, or other people that can vet that and look at it and say, oh, hey, you didn't think of this, or you got this wrong, or this is perfect? How do you do that?
I think to begin with, we are looking for actual merchants and vendors. We have some friends who obviously are local and are willing to try the app, and we've already had some ideas and we've kind of shown it. We walk around with the app on our phone and say, hey, check this out, and we've gotten some ideas that we've implemented even just for our alpha release. So I pretty much want anybody to bash on it, find if they can give us good suggestions or if something's not working correctly, and then ultimately really put it out there. We might launch on the Play Store, and I believe they have an alpha section, even look for beta testers at that point when we get that far, and really even hopefully travel with it, take it into these emerging markets, possibly beginning with Mexico is a great place that we've talked about, where specifically there are areas where there are some good tourist places to start with, although it doesn't have to be limited just to those kinds of locations, but that's a place where there are a lot of different currencies going through. So Tijuana is a great example because people are coming through from the United States and there's a lot of dollars versus pesos, and the exchange right there, I'm sure that vendors there take both currencies, and hopefully ultimately in the API for real-time price discovery is of course Bitcoin as well. And not only Bitcoin, but also some hard currencies too. We use the API for Open Exchange, and they also have real-time price discovery for hard currencies, silver and gold.
By the troy ounce.
So I know the people at PorkFest would love that too.
Right.
Wow, yeah.
Okay, so just to make sure I'm understanding how this thing works too, a traveler, for example, might be able to use this app on their phone, and the vendor also might be able to use this app on their phone in some foreign country?
It's definitely set up for the vendor, but as a traveler, I would refer to it so I can see the currency exchange and then show it to the vendor and say, hey, check this free app out. And so spreads Quid.
And Bitcoin, which is really inside of Quid. We promote Bitcoin and provide all the tools to utilize and trade in Bitcoin. But ultimately, that is going to lead us to the other digital currency, which we are going to have control over. That digital currency is going to be referred to as Quid, and it is our own internal digital currency that we will utilize for in-app purchases to upgrade features of the application.
So we've kind of started like anybody can, mining their own coin. And we based it off of Bitcoin.
It's a Bitcoin clone, ultimately, with some slightly changed parameters.
Wait, you're pre-mining this? Wait a minute.
We're pre-mining.
And the reason that I'm pre-mining is, and a lot of people get upset with the idea of pre-mining, and I can understand that when it's the coin that is being put out there as a digital currency exclusively.
Like an altcoin.
An altcoin, Litecoin.
But this was, I think I inspired Billy from an article that I read that you can actually find on Satoshi Farms, but it was talking about the idea of an app coin. And that being different than an altcoin, and really more of the concept like Dogecoin, where you can kind of introduce people into cryptocurrencies by getting them to use it for, Dogecoin is a great platform for the tipping platform. And so Quidcoin being an app coin and using it within our app, getting people to understand cryptocurrencies, and value is created in Quidcoin because they can actually use it to pay for features within Quid.
We will accept Quidcoin, right? So that's the first price that can be associated to the coin, is the price that we set, because we will give value to that coin through our software products and services. Also, the coin being called Quidcoin, it sort of all fell into place because me being English, and that's how we refer to money in England and many places around the world. Money is referred to as quid. And so ultimately I did want to be able to set up a system whereby I could send someone electronically 50 quid.
50 quid, mate. Send it over here, mate.
Send us a few quid.
As far as the quid go, maybe you could, float some quid our way. I don't know, a couple million quid.
Yeah, well, I don't know about a couple million, but I might be able to send you 500, which in Cockney is monkey. So I'll be able to send you a monkey at some point in the future.
Nice. I love it.
Pre-mining it sounds like that's one way to have some Quidcoin available in order to be able to give it away to your users and have some, in circulation so that you can incentivize people to use it.
Exactly.
Yeah, I love that.
Bitcoin would cost me a lot of money to start airdropping Bitcoin. Now, to airdrop Quidcoin in the same way has a slight cost associated, but a fraction of the cost of Bitcoin. So I can essentially pre-mine this coin, and I'll gather up, I'm thinking 500,000, 1 million of them or so. We've got a total output on Quidcoin of 105 million coins. Okay. So once I've pre-mined probably 1 million of them, I will open up the chain and others can start mining it and gathering rewards and trying to utilize it and have fun with it and find value in it. But basically, the point of the coin and the airdrop is to be able to give some away free to people via a wallet that we're producing for the Android platform. And then hopefully vendors utilizing the smart vendor program will potentially accept that as a currency, knowing that they can hand it on to us for goods and services.
That's great, man. Fantastic.
Well, that's super cool. One of the things I like about the idea of this app as a means of transacting all these different currencies and in foreign places where you're trying to use US dollars, or you might even be trying to figure out how you might use the local currency that you had used at a previous place, or Bitcoin. I remember traveling and backpacking, in my youth and going to these different countries and cities. And my best friend and I decided that our measuring stick, or our benchmark for the value of a currency, was how much it cost to buy a pint of beer everywhere. So we never really knew till the end of the day whether or not we were spending the right amount of money or not. So this is a cool app to be able to help you out.
Nice benchmark. I like that, man.
And ultimately, we look to what is referred to in the Bitcoin space as the other 6 billion. And it's really difficult. This app can be used, of course, here and locally. We'll try to get some of our merchant friends to use it. But they always are asking, well, why would I do that? And it doesn't really make sense. But when you travel and you go to these other places, or you talk to other people from other countries where their currency is devalued.
And not the dollar, essentially.
Yeah, and it's completely inflated. They ask you questions like, oh, wow, how do I use Bitcoin? And how can we get this to our family and friends?
How do I integrate this into my business? It's all the how questions, not the why questions. From when you go and you speak to people who are essentially not, most of the time, Americans and Western Europeans.
And so we hope that this app that we've developed will help kind of foster economic growth and opportunity for vendors in these emerging markets that are around the world. And hopefully it'll give us an opportunity to travel to more places that we love to do.
I think it certainly will, and I really hope you'll take Lidge and I with you, or at least me.
Well, I think we kind of had bounced that idea around before. I think it would be fun to vlog about our travels as we take this app around the world, and maybe if you guys would be interested, you could kind of be our crew.
Oh yeah, we can podcast from Istanbul and wherever else, right?
We can
Acapulco,
podcast from
I'm thinking.
Acapulco, man, that sounds great. Oh man, I'm going. Acapulco.
Another thing that seems inherent in the app that's pretty cool is as you travel around and you get vendors to adopt the app and start using it, you've got travelers using it, you now are connecting consumers and different vendors all around the world. And so you might be able to build a database of places to go and where to go buy the best things and all that kind of stuff. I'm sure you must be thinking about that.
It's a neat idea.
Absolutely. One of the ways that I'm looking to do an initial marketing kind of approach for the project is to maybe kind of collaborate with some other enabling technologies. We were really inspired by one of your past interviews with Nissan from Quid. And
oh, yeah.
They're really doing some great stuff with the $7 computer, if you will, on a USB stick. And we reached out to him a little bit and we got some encouraging feedback. And maybe we can go into these places where other technologies are trying to help people as well and kind of bundle what we're doing and not just go in with the Quid app, but also go in with, like I said, some other projects.
Yeah, I love it.
I'm looking at, you just mentioned, Lidge, about going to places that are interested in where can I spend Bitcoin around the world. And another project that I find fascinating is Bit Islands. I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with that. They're trying to make Bali the Bitcoin destination of the world.
Yeah.
Eat, love, pray, and spend Bitcoin.
I want to go to
Exactly.
I want to go to Bali.
And I also love Farashta is part of Women's Annex in Afghanistan, and they also are enabling women and young girls in Mexico. And so I'm trying to reach out to them and see if maybe we can not necessarily be in a tourist destination, but try to help the local people in areas just kind of close the loop with the Quid POS app, because if they have access to a computer,
No smartphone.
right, or without a smartphone, using something like Keypod, and then Women's Annex is empowering women to reach out to the world and actually paying them in Bitcoin, and then using a system like Quid POS would allow them to transact in Bitcoin and, like I said, pretty much close the loop.
Very cool.
It's great stuff.
And trade really is, we feel, the single best way to uplift yourself, no matter what your economic situation is. You can find some product, service that you can provide to your community and lift yourself up through trade.
Yeah, I think that Americans and people in the West don't really realize how much trade goes on in the world, and they don't realize also how many people in other countries don't just walk around with one currency in their pocket. So, if they understood that, like you guys do, because you've done all that traveling, they would realize how important Quid really is. It sounds to me potentially just as important as Keypod.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. We really hope that the Quid app will allow people to trade.
Empower and improve people's lives, really. That's what it's about. And it's doing it with Bitcoin, because Bitcoin being this revolutionary global currency, people can save money and keep it in a safe way without others attacking them or hurting them for their money. In a lot of countries, to have pieces of paper in your pocket that hold value is a very dangerous prospect.
Absolutely. Well, guys, it sounds like you're doing some really exciting stuff. And we look forward to seeing how Quid Smart Vendor turns out when you're able to launch the app. Also, it'll be exciting for you guys to get it on the Google Play Market or the iPhone app market, because then you will truly be able to get tons of feedback from users.
And what I want to know is, what's in it for you guys?
Good question.
Again, it's kind of like Satoshi Farms. It's a Bitcoin booster ultimately, and it's something that we're truly inspired and interested in.
There are ways that we can monetize the app. I mean, some of the things we're looking at, of course, are feature upgrades. And really the idea in my mind was, if you are that sort of, let's call them base level vendor, okay? So when you go into a market, you're just that guy who've got a market stand, a market store, you're selling hats or sunglasses or whatever. For that vendor, I essentially want to give them the tool for free and it to remain free while he's at that level. Now, once he jumps up to the level where he's got a store, maybe he needs a couple cash registers now, he's got employees that need tracking, now we start charging for features because he's doing better in life. We feel that if he's doing better through the use of our tools, maybe he can kick us back a little. That's pretty much our model.
Sure. I like to think about it the other way, which is just simply to say that at the point at which the merchant is growing and they have an opportunity to spend a little and they grow more, it becomes a no-brainer for them.
Absolutely.
Exactly. And ultimately, that's where the value is within the app and the tool that we're providing to them.
It's awfully valuable, guys. It's great stuff. Hey, thank you so much for joining us. And can you tell our listeners how they can find you?
Yeah, anybody could go to quidpos.com or quidsystems.com. At this point, pretty much leads you to the same place.
I'm thinking alpha here in the next week to 2 weeks, and then we'll probably be another few weeks in alpha, beta, and then we'll go to release.
And we will be building an HTML5 website, so people on the iOS platform would be able to...
Or on any PC or Linux computer will be able to go to an HTML website, which will essentially replicate all of the functionality of the Android application.
Wow. Super cool. Super cool.
That's great. That is so crypto.
Very crypto, guys.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you so much for joining us. And I wish we could finish this interview by just simply joining you guys for a walk in the mountains of Colorado. That sounds beautiful.
It's actually what we're going to go do. We're going to go hike right now, and I think we might even have a Bitcoins and gravy saved up to do it.
Yeah.
Oh, that's nice, man. I was saying I wish we could finish this interview by just joining you guys for a pint.
That's a little later. Let's let the sun cross the yard arm.
Oh, I want to be there with you watching England play. Who are they playing? Uruguay, is that right?
Uruguay today, yeah. Big day for us.
Go England, go England.
Go England.
Nice.
Well, right on, guys. Cheers, and thanks so much for joining us on Bitcoins and Gravy. We look forward to having you back on the show to learn more about Quid Smart Vendor and then to hear more about Satoshi Farms as well.
Oh, yeah. Great stuff, guys. Thanks a million.
Thank you.
A real pleasure to come and be with you guys today. Thank you.
We still want to travel with you. Don't forget about us.
You're on the list, bud.
Nice.
We're going to hold you to it.
All right.
Right on. All right. Cheers. Bye.
Thanks. Bye.
Thank you.
See you guys. Bye. I'm John Barrett.
And I'm Lid Shaw.
We're two guys from East Nashville, Tennessee who love talking about Bitcoin. Join us for Bitcoins and Gravy right here as we talk with business owners around the country and around the world who are using Bitcoins right now to grow their businesses.
We interview Bitcoin experts about cutting-edge developments, the future of Bitcoin the currency, and Bitcoin the shared network. We also talk with everyday folks who use Bitcoins instead of money for everyday purchases.
And if you're still not sure about Bitcoins, we can help. Bitcoins and Gravy will get you up to speed with this new fast-paced technology, Bitcoin. We invite you, the listener, to call us on the Bitcoins and Gravy hotline at 615-208-5198 with your questions or comments about Bitcoin.
And remember to tune in right here for Bitcoins and Gravy.
Now that's gravy.
Okay, John, for episode 23, Aw Heck segment, we're going to go back in the old Bitcoins and Gravy cookie jar and find a couple of SoundCloud comments that we wanted to respond to.
Going back in time now.
What do we got first?
Let's see here. We have a SoundCloud comment from Horg X McKeith. Hey guys, the EP was friggin' crypto. I love hearing stuff about the Bitcoin protocol that can make creative people less marginalized. Why don't you check with Simon Enhouse on his BitTunes project? Very cool stuff is happening, and I'm hoping there's a way these things can work synergistically across apps rather than competitively. Time for some standardization?
Yep, John, I think so. And this was in response to our BitShares music episode. Yes, let's find out more about Simon and his BitTunes project. I think that sounds very interesting.
Oh yeah, let's hear it, Simon.
Okay, next up, John, we have a couple of comments again from R11SE. R11 writes in, Quitcoin has the potential to really get Bitcoin out to the masses. I had planned on requesting that you guys do a show about it, but you beat me to the punch. Great minds think alike. Muchas gracias, amigos. So perhaps R11SE is writing us from down south of the border. I'm not sure there.
Who knows, man? Great minds do think alike. Muchas gracias, amigos.
Yeah, Unfortunately, the two great minds in this room don't always think alike, but, we work well together, I guess, right?
I think so.
So then R11SE also writes, this show is totally crypto. One of my favorite, as always. Nice work, fellas. Bits are on the way your direction.
Nice. Thanks for sending those bits, R11SE. We love you, man.
Yes, thank you very much. And just to all our listeners out there who may have contributed, we send buckets of gratitude towards you. It's your contributions that allow us to continue doing the show. So thank you so much.
And to eat.
And to eat.
Allow us to eat, yes.
Psst. Hey, you. How'd you like a VIP pass to the super secret Bitcoins and Gravy after show? Yeah? Well, follow me. We're taking you live now to the historic Woodland Street Theater in beautiful East Nashville, Tennessee, where Reverend Johnny's big band Down Home Country Jam is set to debut their new single, Ode to Satoshi. Hit it, Johnny.
Thank you very kindly, friends. I'd like to dedicate this song to the great American freedom fighter and songwriter, Mr. Pete Seeger. May you rest in peace. I would also like to dedicate this song to Andreas Antonopoulos for his words of wisdom and hope for us all. Now climb aboard, y'all. This train is bound for glory. And there's plenty of room for all. Well, Satoshi Nakamoto, that's a name I love to say. And we don't know much about him, but he came to save the day. When he wrote about the way things are and the way things ought to be, he gave us all a protocol this world had never seen. Oh, Bitcoin, as you're going into the old blockchain. Oh, Bitcoin, I know you're going to reign, till everybody knows, till everybody knows your name. Down the road it will be told about the death of old Mt. Gox, about traders trading altar coins and miners mining blocks. But them good old boys back in Illinois and on down through Tennessee, see, they don't care to be a millionaire, they're just wanting to be free. Oh, Bitcoin, as you're going into the old blockchain. Oh, Bitcoin, I know you're going to reign, till everybody knows, till everybody knows your name. Halls of Parliament, while the bankers count our money out for every government. Oh, Bitcoin flies on through the skies of virtuality, a promise to deliver us from age-old tyranny. Oh, Bitcoin, as you're going into the old blockchain. Oh, Bitcoin, I know you're going to reign, till everybody knows, till everybody knows your name. Till everybody knows, till everybody knows your... Give me some exposure.
Everybody knows your name. Sing it. Oh, Lord, pass me some more. Oh, Lord, before I have to go. Oh, Lord, pass me some more. Oh, Lord, before I have to go.
Thank you, East Nashville. Y'all be good to each other out there, you hear? So today, Lidge and I take a trip to the Philippines to talk with Nick Galan, the co-founder and CEO of bitmarket.ph. Nick, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much for having me, guys.
Yeah, welcome to Bitcoins and Gravy, Nick. We're glad to have you on the show with us.
So, Nick, can you tell us what kind of a development team you've gotten together and how that came together?
On the founder side, we had one developer, full stack, John Bailon, who threw in with myself and two other partners, Jardinero Diaz and Miguel Cuneta. John and Jardine were able to put together, essentially troll the country and find the best devs that are either working in Bitcoin already or, who had the appropriate skill sets.
Mm-hmm.
We have a development team of about probably 6 or 7 full-time right now. We're hiring interns. We're about 14 total, devs included, and we're growing daily. Because, I'm going to explain to you, it's not only BitMarket that is within our broader rubric. We've got a number of Bitcoin-related services and products, some of which have already been launched, and I'm launching a few more next week.
Okay.
Well, tell us more about BitMarket and what it does and how it's going to work.
BitMarket is simply our attempt at giving the small Filipino online merchant a fighting chance. The Philippine economy is dominated by a very few, very powerful, very wealthy people that erect barriers to entry all over the place. This is not only an online selling and buying. This is in every avenue of human economic life. It's a very, shall we say, pyramid kind of shaped economy with about 5% of people controlling all. Filipinos are also very entrepreneurial. They're always looking, because basic salaries and wages are so low. There is always this great need to find what they call a sideline, which is a way of making money on the side. And ever since we've had internet and social media, from Friendster on, they've turned those platforms, which are socializing platforms, into actual selling and buying platforms.
Mm-hmm.
There's an estimated about 500,000 in what I call informal online vendors. They set up Facebook pages, those like pages, and they post the stuff they have for sale.
Right.
They set up Instagram accounts and they post a Viber number on there. So anytime somebody wants something, it's like a $10 handbag or a pair of shoes, that sort of thing. And then what they ultimately do is, if I wanted to buy something off one of these guys, I would say, hey, I want to buy this. And then now I would proceed to get my money together, meet them at a fast food joint or at an MRT station, and do a meetup and switch money and goods. Or I would have to go to their bank, deposit it, take a photo of the deposit slip, and vibrate over to them, and then they send the goods to my house.
Super easy, right?
Yeah, super easy, like Pony Express online commerce, right?
Wow, that's heavy.
Now, probably about 70% of these people don't even have bank accounts, never mind access to credit card merchant accounts. Their selling points, their price points are so tiny that any transaction processing fee would just destroy any margin. PayPal is very difficult to even just access as an online seller. In being Filipino, we can't KYC with them easily.
Mm-hmm.
Plus, they like to hold money and all that sort of thing. So it's been this kind of like this hybrid online and, get on the bus and go get the stuff. It's always been that. We hope to change that, right?
Yeah.
Using Bitcoin.
And so now BitMarket is able to somehow help these merchants transact in Bitcoin and not have to go to the bank and not have to go meet them at a fast food joint somewhere and all that?
The sale is done in peso, right? So the client using Bitcoin, the customer using Bitcoin, is presented a QR code that they can flash. We receive notification. We notify the vendor. Vendor gets a notification automated. And by the end of the next business day, the money is delivered either to them personally if they don't have a bank account, or we drop it into their bank account.
When you say the money is delivered, you say that it's delivered in pesos.
In pesos, yes, pardon me.
Okay,
Yeah,
go ahead.
I should stop making a distinction between money and Bitcoin, because Bitcoin is money. It's a trap I always fall into.
No, that's okay. So
Now,
go ahead.
So yeah, peso or some split of Bitcoin or peso, that's up to the merchant to set up their policy with us on whether they want to retain some Bitcoin.
You're basically offering for the Filipino community the same thing that Coinbase and BitPay are offering, right?
Precisely, but we've chosen specifically to focus on the Philippine community. I've had offers to work in Thailand, for example. I have a lot of friends there in business world, but I want to focus on the Filipino community because, at the risk of sounding goody-goody, this is kind of where I want to be right now. I want to help these guys make some real money.
That's great. That's very cool. And so when you talk about delivering peso to the merchant, that's part of the service that BitMarket can provide that BitPay or Coinbase could not necessarily provide. Is you have a one-on-one, a face-to-face ability to deliver pesos to a merchant that does not have a bank account access?
Yes. As of now, we do. Now, we're going to have some scaling issues around that because currently we have 64 merchants signed on, right? As I said, there's about 500,000 estimated informals out there. I mean, one of my partners, Jardine, is he runs probably one of the largest logistics companies in the country. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, we've got kind of a built-in on the side resource base there.
Okay, great. And so what are some of the ways that you envision being able to scale it up from 64 to the moon?
Well, from 64 to the moon is, well, as I said, I'll pay my partners other business to, put the money in courier bags on scooters and motorcycles, and they'll just zip around. However, we have a partnership with a company called vmoney.com, which is out of the Philippines as well. Payment processor and traditional fiat payment systems. We have a deal with them to deliver ATM cards tied to a bank account already to the recipient. So our merchants will receive these cards. So in very, very short order, we don't have to zoom around in motorcycles. They'll have bank accounts we can drop the pesos into.
That seems easy to grasp, easy to understand.
That's one of the value adds we give to the merchant as well. Partnerships with companies like vMoney.
In that situation, would a merchant still have to set up a bank account and be able to qualify?
No, the bank account would be set up via the vMoney system. They've got a third-party deal with the major banks.
Oh, okay. Well, that's great. I guess the birth of bitmarket.ph came about because Coinbase and BitPay weren't accepting people without bank accounts.
I think it gave us, the birth of BitMarket was really essentially our idea was BitMarket, the notion was born. It was quite a different idea, as most businesses tend to be. There's like that one napkin idea that morphs into something else, right? Mm-hmm. We were really sitting around a restaurant just after that great big super typhoon Haiyan hit the Philippines. Myself and my three other partners, and we're saying, what can we do using Bitcoin that can help this, right? And we were thinking long term because you could dump a bunch of money on rebuild and then you leave them alone, but they've still got about 20 years of rebuilding. BitMarket was born as an idea to where we would aggregate Philippine intellectual property artists, sculptors, wood carvers, that sort of thing, and sell it in like an Amazon type marketplace for Filipino intellectual products of Filipino intellectual endeavors and art and craft. And then as we just got through it, we figured, it just makes a lot more sense if we just let all these sellers around the country, no matter what, access the blockchain, access Bitcoin, and give them a brand new way of earning money that is not, that really has no friction. The reason that we were able to do this and they didn't go running to BitPay and Coinbase is the traditional Filipino seller, although we are the busiest in social media in the world, are afraid to go and talk to big American companies. They're not going to send that email.
Yeah, I can understand that.
Yeah. And so essentially we just dropped in there and, we're lucky because we're very well plugged into the business community at large. So we have access to media and that sort of thing. And one of my partners is a Reddit superstar. So, 8 million karma, anytime he posts something, it just gets up there and gets visible. That's how you guys found us.
Yeah, that's a great resource right there, Reddit. We love Reddit.
Absolutely.
So, Nick, can you tell us a little bit about your background and how you initially got into Bitcoin?
Yeah. My background is, I'm all over the place. I'm your prototypical serial entrepreneur. Did my first startup in 1995, 1996, just when HTTP was coming out. I started my career in Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada. I've only been living in the Philippines for 10 years. Now I've run the gamut, services, technology, you name it. Even my most recent one, and I'm still a partner, is I'm in gambling. I run one of the biggest brick and mortar poker brands in Asia.
Wow.
Okay, cool.
Now that's how I got into Bitcoin. About a year and a half ago, I was sitting around and I got a request on a Facebook private message saying, "Boss Nick, would you like to buy some Bitcoin?" And my response was, "What the hell is a Bitcoin?" Turns out this was a professional poker player. Filipinos are very good poker players. However, they don't have credit cards. So it's very difficult for them to get money inside and out of the big poker sites like PokerStars and that sort of thing. Now, I don't know if you know this poker brand, Seals with Clubs, which is like the biggest Bitcoin site out there.
Yeah, we know it.
They reached this fairly large, small stakes Filipino online poker playing community. And because the players are so good, they started winning the free rolls and then winding up with Bitcoin, but they still need to pay their electricity. They still got to feed their kids. They reached out to me, figuring that I might be able to switch that Bitcoin out into peso. Mm-hmm. And of course, when I got those first requests, I jumped on Reddit, found the subreddit, and honestly, wrapped myself in that cloak for like 3 straight months. I think I neglected like my kids, that sort of thing. And that's essentially how I got started with Bitcoin. And late last year, when that one article about that Northern European guy who just kind of rediscovered his Bitcoin and found and bought a condo somewhere in Norway, I think.
Okay.
When that hit, along with a spike in the exchange rate, two of my current partners got into it and started asking me about it. And within 2 months, we had the beginnings of a business plan.
And this is how you got started with bitmarket.ph. That was the first app. You said you had some other things in the works in the Bitcoin sphere?
We knew we needed to do some sort of a faucet mechanism to get Bitcoin circulating in the Philippines, right? Mm-hmm. So we banged through a bunch of ideas and all that stuff. And then it dawned upon us that, wait, the Philippines is known as the selfie capital of the world.
You're talking about cell phone photographs.
You know, those annoying selfie pictures.
Yeah, the selfie capital of the world. That's great.
Yeah. You could actually Google that, and we're known. And we're also we're the largest percentage of population using Facebook in the world. We're very social people.
Wow.
So what we did is we created a site called bitstars.ph.
Okay.
Where you can post a selfie, and we run a daily contest for about $5 worth of Bitcoin for the most likes. So essentially, all this like whoring that goes on can now actually turn into real money.
I love it, man. That is great.
But here's the really exciting thing. It's actually live. You can look at it right now. You've got a computer in front of you. Your account can receive a direct tip from any viewer, any user with an account.
That's great.
Right. So now you're going to see, now I'm like the selfie king, I'm taking selfies all over the place. And, my kids are laughing at me, and I just tell them, hey, I'm in the selfie industry. This is work.
So people can people can post their selfies, and they can go for those tips from other users, and they have a chance to win like $5 worth of Bitcoin every day?
Yeah. $5 worth of Bitcoin, but it'll scale up depending on the number of selfies posted in a day. We've got an algorithm,
right? And
it'll top out at about $12 worth of prize money every day. Now that's pretty good for the Filipino, whose average wage minimum is about $12 a day.
Oh, is that right? Wow. Yeah. It's a different economy that's difficult for us to wrap our minds around.
Well, those are both very exciting apps, and it seems like you're doing some cool stuff in the Philippines. Do you have a message that you'd like to get out to the vendors, to the merchants in the Philippines about bitmarket.ph, and what would you like to say to them?
For the merchants out there, I'll be very frank with you guys. There's probably none of them will probably ever hear this podcast.
Okay.
Right. What I'd like to do, though, is reach out to the folks in the world that are doing things similar to me, especially in the Southeast Asia region. I'm talking markets like Indonesia, Thailand. Mm-hmm. We'd love to be able to connect and just share war stories, if nothing else, lessons learned, best practices, because I think it's important. I mean, those economies I just mentioned are very similar to what we experience in the Philippines.
Yeah, those are really important markets.
Yes, absolutely. Huge, vast swaths of population, right?
Yep.
What we want to do, I think, in the region, if nothing else, let's get Bitcoin rolling around and let's get some volition in the economy. And that it'll be like network effects. And that's what I'm after. We're also launching, if I may, our order book exchange coinage. And we just dropped the Skyhook ATM in yesterday, and we're getting some BitAccess machines in as well.
Wow, you're busy over there.
Yeah, buddy, we're growing fast. If you talk to me in about a month, I'm probably going to have doubled my stuff. We're already looking for bigger office space.
Wow, that's great.
Well, we would like to interview you again if you'd like to come back on the show, and I'm sure our listeners would love to hear about your progress.
Absolutely. I'd love to do that. Just keep an eye on Reddit as well. You've got my email. I've got your email. Every new thing that we roll out, I'm going to let you guys know about.
Okay, great.
Okay, great. Yeah, please do. Can you please let our listeners know how they can find you and some of the sites and new offerings that you have, how they can find those?
Bitmarket.ph. If you're in the Philippines and you want to sell anything online, bitmarket.ph. It's that easy. If you want to post a selfie, no matter where you are in the world, go to bitstars.ph. Have a look. We've got some really interesting people on there.
We know what we're going to be doing after this interview.
Yeah. We're going to
actually do me a favor. Post a selfie. You can do it through your Instagram or your Facebook. It's very easy.
Nice.
And I'll send you guys a tip.
Oh, that's great, man.
And announcements coming down the pipe. Order book exchange, ATMs around at least Metro Manila to begin with, and throughout the country in short order. And we've got remittance we're looking at now. We're probably about a month away from a big launch there. With money direct to where it needs to go. The remitter in the United States or London or wherever can actually buy the rice for the children instead of sending the money to the husband who will then gamble it in my poker club.
Beautiful.
That's really great stuff you're doing, Nick. Thank you so much for being on the show, and we look forward to catching up with you here in a couple of months.
I really appreciate it, guys. Thanks. More power to you.
Yeah, Nick Galan, thank you so much for joining us today on Bitcoins and Gravy. We look forward to talking to you soon.
All right, folks. Take care.
You too. Thanks, Nick.
We'd like to thank Billy and Cheryl Carr of Quid Point of Sale Smart Vendor for joining us again on today's show, and also Nick Galan of bitmarket.ph. To find out more about our guests and sponsors, visit our show notes at bitcoinsandragravy.com/episode 23. Thank you so much for listening to our show. We greatly appreciate your time and attention. If you like the show, please remember to go to iTunes and leave us a review. Also, hit the subscribe button if you'd like to hear from Bitcoins and Gravy each week.
And remember the Bitcoins and Gravy hotline. Have you ever wanted to be a podcaster? Then call us at 615-208-5198 and leave us a message with your comments, questions, or complaints. This is your opportunity to tell us what you think. If you give us permission, we will put you on the show. So call the Bitcoins and Gravy hotline at 615-208-5198. 5198. That's right, that's the Bitcoins and Gravy hotline. And of course, we offer a number of ways for you to download all of our past podcasts. You can go to letstalkbitcoin.com or directly from iTunes, or you can go to our website, bitcoinsandgravy.com. If you enjoyed the show, please take a moment and leave a review or comment on iTunes or SoundCloud. Let us know what you like or where we can improve.
And remember, it's your reviews and comments that help new listeners discover Bitcoins and Gravy, plus all the other great shows on the Let's Talk Bitcoin Podcast Network. And we thank you for your generous tips and donations.
I'm John Barrett.
And I'm Lidge.